Captain tupigie risto.
Mabron Jace. Yeah. Wacha ni washow vile msupa alinituma vitungu sokoni.
Aje?
Nilikuwa naenda kulamba bet juu ya game moja. Nikauliza, yani naweza lamba bet juu ya game moja? Alafu madha wa vitungu akadai, jamani su kesho na betika. Nikamuuliza, naweza jitoa tu? Mzee wa mkoko akatokea akadai, ni mara ngapi ndakushow? Na betika unaweza cash out na withdraw bila charges.
Ala? Eti cash out na no withdrawal charges?
Kabisa.
Ukibetika unapata mo. Pata mo na betika.
Hii story imeletwa kwako na Betika, the official sponsors of happiness. Gambling can be addictive. Play responsibly. Not for persons under 18 years of age. This advert is authorized and regulated by the Betting Control and Licensing Board. License number BK281. Betika, jukwaa la mabingwa.
Guys, thanks for joining us. This is Radull Live. Now, remember, we come to you courtesy of Betika, where you can withdraw all your winnings without any charges. By the way, pata mo na Betika. Today we're going to talk about rugby, specifically rugby league. I have two guys here who have played all the rugby in the world. John Bai, technical director of the rugby league, and Charles Cardovilis. As if I'm to give all your titles, all your former titles, we need about an hour. But a former international and currently commercial director and vice chairman of the Kenya Rugby League.
Yes,
before we even get into the rugby league, I want people to know who you are and a bit about your personal rugby career. So John, I'll start with you.
Thanks for having me. Started rugby in high school, actually primary, but that was a bit more just feel good when I was in the scouts. So our scout leader introduced me to the sport. Used to play it as a pastime, but took it really seriously when I joined high school. I schooled in St. Mary's Yala, and so played it for the 4 years that I was there. School team was fortunate to make it to Kenya schools as well. Then went into club rugby, played for Lindsay for 2 seasons, then went to Mwamba.
Yeah, you're a soldier.
No, I think just the influence of the guys that I schooled with and the Westerners who ended up going there, the likes of Makaka, the late Makaka, Dennis Mwanja. So I got enticed to play for Lindsay. And I think, but when I was in 3rd form, 4th form, I used to turn out for them for their second team in under 19s. So yeah, generally when I got into club rugby, that's how I gravitated. Unfortunately, my playing was cut short. I was fortunate to play to the national team 15s and 7s, but it was cut short through injury. So I went into coaching pretty early. I think in my
injuries, I need to apologize for my sock.
So I started coaching in the mid to late 20s. Yeah, so we coached for around 12, 13 years, I think. But I crossed paths with Cardo at schools. Yeah, I think they broke. I think we first played against each other in at high school when he was starting out for St. Mary's. Although he was
St. Mary's the president.
Yeah.
This one is just St. Mary's, that one is B.
St. Mary's. So then we crossed paths at club, had some very good rivalry there. Played, I think, together national team, then went into management of the national team. I think he was my head coach at Kenya A, and then we worked in management at Kenya Sevens. But now to rugby league.
We'll get to rugby league. I just want to know Charles. Charlie, tell us about yourself.
John, I didn't
Was
know.
it
I didn't know we spent so much time together.
It's disturbing you now.
Yeah, it just hit me. Very similar to John. I mean, primary school, but which was very feel-good stuff. The rugby career really hit the heights in the St. Mary's, Nairobi.
You can tell the rivalry still existed.
Yeah, so had the privilege of playing there for 5 years. Captain St. Mary's, had some really good successes with the school. Those are some of the glory years of the school.
What's that school tournament? That's always hosted at St. Mary's?
Blackrock.
Blackrock.
Yeah. So a number of Blackrocks, a number of Prescotts, a number of nationals. Then I actually got my first Kenya Sevens call-up when I was actually in St. Mary's. They called me up from there. Got in the Kenya Sevens team. At the same time, got into the 15s team. At that time, we used to play both, depending on which. We used to get swapped across the codes. Again, just like John, I got injured and got into coaching and never looked back. So again, in my late 20s, got into coaching. Started with Harlequins. Then ended up.
I was a member when Habo was, I think, Secretary General.
Yes.
He used to harass me, and then when he left,
Yes. So got into that. A lot of coaching there. Got into the Kenya 7 setup as assistant coach, where John was my team manager. Of course, he mentioned, yes, I was head coach for Kenya A, and John was my assistant there too. And then I took the adventure to go and coach Cabras. Said, let me try something different, players you're not very familiar with, an environment you're not very familiar with. Had a stint there for 1.5 years, which
I could. Literally living in Kakamega.
Yeah, interesting.
I think you're the latest person there.
That's a story for another day. We can talk
Hey, my
about.
Kakamega people, don't come after me.
Yes, us guys of Lurambi. Yeah, so that was good. I considered it a pretty successful stint. It really developed my coaching, and I learned quite a bit from that sort of environment and how we ran things there. Totally different setup from how the rugby clubs run in Nairobi. It's a total professional setup. With these players day in, day out from 4 o'clock in the morning, and it was very exciting, and I made some really good friends in the players and the fans there, and I still have a lot of friends on that end.
Just because you mentioned it about Cabras, people think they came out of nowhere, but there was a plan, and they've actually they've managed to run the club professionally compared to a lot of other clubs in the country. Is it the financial investment? What is it?
Definitely. I mean, I know we've all got the plans and structure in place, but without the financial backing, it's not going to work.
At some point, there are players from, is it Samoa?
Yeah, no, from Fiji.
Fiji.
They've still got one or two. They've got players from South Africa. They've got players from Uganda. So they can afford it. They can do it. And they are in an environment, a town like Kakamega is really tiny. So they are all together. Yeah, they're all together. They've got hostels. They live together. And you can have more time with the players than in Nairobi. There's no traffic
Which is a
problems.
good lesson that if you want, and they get the results.
Yeah, and a lot of the players then after school get job opportunities at the factory. So that also helps. So they can balance work and play very easily because the factory understands the game's needs. So after that, I came back to Queen's. Had 2 years at Queen's, and then just sort of stepped away from rugby and got more involved in sports consulting, administration, and working with academies in different sports.
Academies. Now, the reason I was talking about the Cabras is I'm trying to set the stage for things you learned before you got into now the rugby league. Tell us about the rugby league. Where has it come from? Because I think we only started hearing about the rugby league about 2-3 years ago.
Actually, it's been more than a 10-year journey. First started with enthusiasm. I think there's one or two of us who was not here. There is Eric Murungi, who is our treasurer. He was an enthusiast for a long time. He used to follow Edward Rombo, first professional rugby player, although he ended up playing rugby league. And when he came back, there was all this talk of Kenya would do well to, play rugby league. So a few of us started that conversation. But when we actually started seeing it being a reality is when we held our first officiating course in Kenya at the current chairman's house. So we got a New Zealander who is a coach and a ref educator who was doing his travels and came down to Kenya, and he held the first it was like an informal kind of class, took guys through a level 1 officiating course. Then the following year, Richard Akwaka was bold enough to say, you know what, I think we can actually do an exhibition match. And he organized a match between Kenya and Italy, which happened in
Watamu.
Oh yeah, in Watamu. But that was more of like an
just remember the course.
It was more like an exhibition thing because he wanted to get things going. And so after that match happened, it went pretty quiet because then now we had to legitimize everything. It was about getting the thing registered, then now starting to develop clubs and making a real go at it. So the registration is actually what took a bit of time because in Kenya, very few know the difference that rugby league is a different sport through and through.
That was going to be
with
my
rugby
next
union.
question. What is the difference between the rugby union and the rugby league?
So a bit of history again. Before it used to be rugby union, but rugby union was played mostly with elite guys up in the UK. So things like paying players and earning an honest living out of the sport was taboo back in those days because they were like, us we're elite, we just come play for fun, clubs play and all that.
The love of the game.
Yeah, but now you had, I think the factory workers. They weren't seeing how they would play a sport they like and not get something out of it because it cost them money to play. So they actually broke away and formed their own league. It was about in 18 or 9 or something. I don't know the dates, but they formed their own league. The rules were a bit different. So if you look at American football, the concept of American football about having 6 chances to play with the ball and even how the scores are made, there's a bit of similarity there. So with rugby union, you basically have a fair contest. So you can get a turnover when attacking defense are playing. When it comes to rugby league, the attacking team has 6 chances with the ball to gain ground and actually score. And if they don't make use of that ball, it's a turnover. So there are a bit of technicalities in there.
I'm floating. But it's also played with different players.
So 13 players on the pitch.
13 is the 15.
Yes, it's the longer version. So the longer version has 13 players. The shorter version has 9 players. When it comes to the major difference, I would say is the contest for the ball. So a lot of rules are almost similar, but when it comes to contest, when there's a breakdown, what we call a breakdown whereby somebody has been tackled and then you have players.
I even know what a breakdown is. But just explain.
You have players competing for the ball on the ground. It's very different when it comes to rugby league. So in rugby league, in a tackle situation, which is still known as a ruck, the defending players can't contest for the ball in a tackle. They have to basically form a defense line, and the defending team also have to retreat back 10. Then the other difference is in the scores. I think a try is 4 points as opposed to 5, and conversion is still 2 points. But when you kick a drop goal, it's in rugby league it's 1 point instead of 3. Then there are no lineouts. Yeah, when the ball goes out, you'll either restart with a scrum, but other variations is that you'll scratch the ball from the point inside the pitch from the point where the ball came out. So the reason why rugby league is a bit different, they try to promote a more quick game. So less stoppages. You'll find if you go to a union game, to the frustration of many coaches, from my experience, you'll find that the actual playing time in an 80-minute game may be something like maybe 50 minutes. Because there's a lot of breakdown stoppages. The ref will stop. You'll have to set up a scrum down. You have to set up a line out. Now in rugby league, it's very quick. So you'll have the best explanation I can give. Think of a sevens game, which is very quick, but with more numbers on the pitch. And you'll find across the places where the game is very established, people tend to want to go and watch that game because it's fast-paced. A lot lot of actions, very
see the
simple.
action.
Yes.
Like Americans, very
Yeah.
short attention span.
Exactly. And then
It's the action.
yeah, and then you'll find that now a lot of teams, like in the union game, they're trying to actually apply some of the rules in rugby league to make it fast-paced. So you'll find a lot of the variation of the rules, they're borrowing heavily from rugby league to make it quick, because they've realized, again, the game is very boring with a lot of start-stop. They want that very quick.
Charles, what's the difference in terms of management? Because are you also under the Kenya Rugby Union, or you had to form a different body?
No. And we had to form a different body. So we are the Kenya Rugby League Federation. It's
Okay, so it's
completely different.
Independent of
Yes,
Kenya Rugby Union.
we've got our own governing body, which is the International Rugby League. So I think, as John was trying to explain earlier, is that some of the challenges we had with our registration is that the registration office here at Sports Register did not understand that they can be two different bodies. So they thought we were some rival body trying to break away from union and trying to fight them, like with the way we've seen with a lot of the unions and federations here, where people break off and there's a rebel group. So
And
that's
you're
what
in
they
court.
that's what they thought it was. And yes, we actually ended up at the tribunal, the sports tribunal, and luckily it went through, and we managed to get our registration certificate. Was it in 2019? We were able to get, so we are officially registered with the sports registrar. And yes, we are a federation on our own. We've got our own sort of board with a chairman and a board of directors, and we've got a running office with a CEO and a couple of staff and working. So it's a whole different ball game on its own. We run our own coaching courses, which John runs, our officiating courses. We have our own league that's actually carrying on with 6 teams currently. Basically, Nairobi, we have a team in Nairobi. We have teams in Nairobi, Kitengela, Nakuru, and Kisumu, and Kiambu. Yeah. So it's building. It's getting popular. And as John was actually saying, it's something that will actually really suit our Kenyan style of play. And as you were talking about excitement, it's why the Game of Sevens was created, to create excitement for the non-purists who just want to watch some quick action and take off, who don't really understand.
Thank you, man.
Yes. so very similar. So yes, we are a different organization on its own and running everything very separately from union.
And the union don't feel slighted in any way?
Well, there was obvious.
Well, that's for them to say.
I mean, that's for them to say. And there was obvious the initial whispers of we'll be fighting for the same players, but that's not really in our interest at all. I think there's a large pool out there that can play rugby. There's a lot of kids coming through school that cannot be absorbed in all these clubs. We're already talking about some of the challenges clubs are having in union to keep these players. So why not? And we've seen in countries like New Zealand, England, Australia, where league and union are actually very big, and where both codes help each other. So someone like Sonny Bill came from league. Sonny Bill Williams.
Sonny Bill
Yes.
Williams.
So Sonny Bill Williams was a big league player. He came from.
He's the one who was also a boxer.
Yes, yes, good.
I know my New Zealand players.
Yes, I thought so.
All Blacks.
Yeah. So there's him. There's someone. There was Jason Robinson in England. He actually won the World Cup with Union. He was a big league player. So both codes can actually learn from each other.
So you can transition. In fact, I was going to ask where you draw your players from. So there's no crossing at the moment?
Funnily enough, I think the whole COVID setup really worked in our favor, because there was this like a 2-year gap between people who had finished school and wanted to go into club rugby. So clubs like we have Kitengela Sharks, Nakuru, Kisumu, they are purely league players, as in they don't play any other sport. And for us, ours was a long-term thing. We have been Charles and I have been very big on grassroots development. And our long-term plan was getting into, even not the 2025 World Cup, the 2029 World Cup. So we are looking at, if you look at the players that will be playing in that World Cup, there are currently our 14, 15-year-olds. So that's our main focus right now. Obviously, sometimes you'll have 1 or 2 players who maybe have not made it in their club, in union, saying, oh, you know what, I'm just looking for an opportunity to play. And there are some of those, they come and, get attached to a club and play the game. And for us, we don't want to put any restriction to say you're either going to play union or play league. We want to leave it open. I think the burden probably would be if Rugby Union then puts a policy to say you can't play both.
Their contracts,
Which for me I think it would be like tying someone's hands. I mean, you look at even in professional era, if I'm to borrow like in the US, the name I think it's Jackie Robinson, if I'm not mistaken. He played golf. He played baseball and he played American football. So it's not unheard of to find a player even in the professional era playing two different sports. You had Sonny Bin Williams, as you've mentioned. He does boxing and he was playing for the All Blacks. In fact, there's one time they actually gave him a release to go and do a fight, and I know the coaches were watching with anxiety.
Don't break anything.
And I think it was a World Cup year.
Yes.
And then he came and played for the All Blacks. So there is enough
as
space.
As long as you can be committed
on both sides. And if the commitment does not allow, I think it's just now it will come down to, and I don't think we're there yet, because Union for the longest time it has existed is not yet anywhere near to semi-professional, apart from maybe two clubs. You'll find Cabras and maybe KCB. Those other clubs do not have a contract, save for maybe one or two players where they can give them full-time contract to say you're exclusively here. And you'll find that in their professional or in their personal life, there are other professional commitments. Some people work for
jobs.
Yes, so it's not unfounded to find that that the two can coexist without any conflict of interest. Eventually, yes, we hope that both Union and League grow to a professional era, but I do believe we have out of 40 million citizens, we cannot lack 100 players on each side.
Don't say that. Harambee Stars still can't compete in the continent.
But you see,
I've seen countries like Cape Verde, which have 2 million, a population of 2 million, and they're there.
But the good thing about Harambee Stars, save for the national team debacle, you have so many clubs down to the grassroots and
talent. Yes. Actually, that's what I was going to say. You can't consider the talent.
So it just needs to just have
a bit of structure.
Just stay the course in terms of what we've started, our vision, make sure that we stay professional and do things right.
The clubs you have right now, are they professional or they're still just
not at all? Not at all. I mean, they're the definition of amateur.
Those are young. Those are very young as a federation.
you've got to get it rolling, and you know how things work in this part of the world. People want to see things happening first, then they'll jump onto your success story. So we want to get the league going. At least now we are able to sort of facilitate games. The clubs are actually able to honor their fixtures. Players are turning up. So once that happens, then we can start to package that and start to sell a product. Otherwise, so that's been our focus: get the league going. And what we've been able to do, and I always say also, COVID has been really good to us. What we've been able to do during that whole COVID thing has been putting our structures to work on officiating, which is a very big problem, not only here, but around the world. Refereeing in any sport is such a big headache. So John has worked really hard on officiating courses and building our own referees, and also coaching courses. So coaching courses for us are really important because the technical bits of any sport are really, really important.
Who's training them? Who's training the youth?
Who's passing on that knowledge and make sure that the right thing is being passed on. So those are the three areas we're looking at: building the player, building the officials, and building the technical benches.
And actually, to add to that, we're trying to make it to make sure it's done in a much faster way. So we're decentralizing it. Right now, we have referees and coaches doing online courses with RLF International Educator. In March and April, the team will come down, and hopefully by the end of March, we'll have about 10 to 12 coaches being level 2, which is same level with a lot of the international coaches out there. And then we'll have also the officiating maybe being of a certain level. We target this so that at least with certain levels they can now get exchange programs. So you'll have, what I want to see is local coaches and referees actually going to Europe and spending maybe 6 or a month either refereeing or doing a coaching program, then coming back to
to bring that knowledge back to us.
Yeah.
I'll just take a very short break, less than a minute. We'll be back, and after that, I want to hear what we can do to support you more. How can we get involved in Kenya Rugby League? That conversation is coming up in just a bit.
Captain, tupigie Risto.
Mabron Jace. Yeah. Wacha ni washow vile msupa alinituma vitungu sokoni.
Yaja?
Nilikuwa naenda kulamba bet juu ya game moja. Nikauliza, yani naweza lamba bet juu ya game moja? Alafu madha wa vitungu akadai, jamani su kesho tunabetika. Nikamuuliza, naweza jitoa tu? Mzee wa mkoko akatokea akadai, ni mara ngapi ndakushow? Na betika unaweza cash out na withdraw bila charges.
Ala? Eti cash out na no withdrawal charges?
Kabisa.
Ukibetika unapata mo. Pata mo na betika.
Hii story imeletwa kwako na Betika, the official sponsors of happiness. Gambling can be addictive. Play responsibly. Not for persons under 18 years of age. This advert is authorized and regulated by the Betting Control and Licensing Board. License number BK281. Betika, jukwaa la mabingwa.
Welcome back. We're talking about Rugby League today on Radull Live. Yes, I'm with the Vice Chairman and Commercial Director, Charles Cardovilis, and the Technical Director, John Bai. Have I said that correctly?
Perfect.
Perfect. I've got the other title, CGH, EGH, PQ, all those stuff. And before it was basically for me an introduction to Rugby League. Right now, because I know you're looking for corporate support and things like that, but we all know that corporate support wants to see the structure, wants to see what the league how the league operates, want to see if the fans are involved, because those are the customers they're targeting. What happens right now in rugby league where fans can get involved? For example, is there an actual league? Is there competitions?
Yeah, maybe something Charles can come in a better way from a commercial point of view. For us, it's fans can get involved with adopting a club. I think there are certain ways we're trying to make sure the clubs are sustainable. Mm-hmm. And one way is all clubs are looking for a commercial activity that they can be doing to be self-sustaining. And there are also partnerships with probably at county level, and just trying to grow the fan base organically. So I think that's one area that they can get involved in a much bigger way. The other,
are there any county governments that have come into support?
Right now, Kitengela, Kisumu, and Kiambu. There's some good talk there. Nothing that has been finalized, but there are certain ways in which they've already, even in more ways than one, showed their support. So that's a very big plus for us. And the other thing is just, I think, what we're saying, if the clubs get even the fans supporting and some corporates, I think we will make such big milestones. Strides. Yes. And they're just different packages. I think Charles can talk about the packaging and other commercial.
Because every corporate wants eyeballs.
Yeah, definitely. And that's, as I said, it's about we are building that brand and putting it together slowly. We're not going to pretend, yes, we have this big thing and we have 10,000 people watching every league game. No, we're creating it. Yeah, we're building it slowly. We're doing things slowly on the marketing side in terms of our social media platforms and sharing news with the media. And for us I'm big with working with the media. So the first thing for me is once I put this together, I want to work hand in hand with the likes of yourselves and say, listen, now we've got media on our side and we're trying to build this product to take it out there to the fans. We've as John says, we've had some very, very in-depth conversations and they are at a very advanced stage with those 3 counties. Very surprising. They've bought into the idea and are willing to actually adopt the teams. And we all know that they've got the budgets to run sporting teams. So again, it's for us to make sure that it's a sustainable model. We want them to come in on the long term. We're looking 3, 4, 5 years minimum, build something so that we can keep these players playing and then get it to that semi-professional, professional setup that you were talking about. So if we can get them hired, they are playing full-time, if they get jobs within the county. So we build the teams around the county environments. We build players in those areas. And so we are adopting and creating it. So it just becomes even job creation through sport, and which is something that I know we are all very interested in doing. So that's the whole idea. Let's build the league first. Let's build these little things that we are doing, and then we can then package it and sell it to the public, to the county, and to the fans at large. So one of the things that we're actually doing is, like John says, also with the coaching, we have 24 participants coming from around the world to do a coaching course in Nairobi, and they will be included with us. So we are hosting them for a week in Nairobi. We'll tell you more about it at the end of March. And for us, that's a big step. And the world body is saying, wow, Kenya are making some really big strides in a very short time. So those are some of the small things. It's just getting the foundation, build it right, so that we have no cracks that we've seen developing in other sports that then sink when things get to the big
I was going to
stage.
say one of our biggest, we are our own worst enemies within the sporting industry, because the federations there's always bickering, there's always issues of transparency and corruption, and I think a lot of corporates end up spending their money on putting TV advertising instead of supporting sporting brands.
Very true. And again, like we said, COVID has been good to us. It doesn't mean we don't have our bickering, but it has helped us sit down, have those internal wars, and make sure everything is watertight.
We're on the same page.
Yeah. I mean, so now we're on the same page. We've sorted that out. Let's make sure we're giving out something that people will buy into. And like you're saying, we need to throw more. We'd like corporates to come and throw more money into sport, so that we can build. Sport is a business, so to speak, but we must show them the return on investment. And that's what we're working on.
And I think just another thing that a lot of the sports and corporate relationship don't look at. For us, we're looking at a long-term thing. So a corporate will get much better value for money with us, and looking at our vision of 2029 World Cup. Very realistic. I mean, if things, of course, right now we've got our affiliation a bit late, and so the qualifiers are going on right now, but it's still possible that we may be allowed to compete for the 2025 qualifiers, which is it 3 years? 3 years from now. And if you look at some of the development goals that we have, it is very easy to prepare a team realistically within the 3 years with some of the things you're doing right now. But even if that doesn't happen, I mean, 2029 is not far from
It's not far.
Yeah, in terms of preparation and getting things right and what needs to be done. So a corporate coming on board with us right now and having the same vision with us will get much more value for money. I mean, think of an organization that was launched 2 to 3 years ago officially, has gotten its affiliation to IRL, and is now putting down grassroots to prepare a team to be on the world stage.
It means your head's in the right space.
Yeah, so.
But I wish our corporate would see it that way, because we tend to have this habit in Kenya where you succeed and then I want to be a part of you, as opposed to growing with you.
Well, I think it's just about being able to sell. We know we've just got to sell ourselves. We've got to be our typical salesman and package it properly and help them see the dream and the vision. And I'm happy to say I mean, the rally, the golf have been really good to us. I think it has opened a lot of people's eyes, counties now want to get involved with what Nakuru through Naivasha has done. You know, they're like, wow, okay, if that can happen there, bring it to us, you know.
Yeah.
And you see sports spreading across and counties getting involved and corporates want to get involved. So I think my challenge is also to our fellow, you know, people running the unions, federations, and etc., is just do it properly. Because if you go and mess it up there, you're messing the name for the next federation, whether you like it or not. Yeah, because we go in ask for money and they say, look at you sports guys, and it's
you are confused.
Yes, all of
Yet
you.
It's
You
not
know,
you.
it's on the front page. Sport
Yeah.
is doing this. Sport is it's all negative and bickering. So we've got to support each other. And yes, I'm big also on having big sporting forums where all the federations, unions come together and put our heads together and say, how do we market sport? You know, and take back ideas and go and sell it out there to the corporates. And every corporate will pick what they want. So why is golf so successful, even with government backing, etc.? With the rally, we saw the injection in that. We've seen the support the Kenya Sevens gets because of the sort of brand they've been able to create. But it's still not enough, and it needs to be spread across the board. And so we can pick up. So all the other federations, different sports can pick up. I mean, I see all the attention Angela Okutoi gets now. After the fact, no one knows her story.
I don't know if you've seen me. I hosted her here in October. By the way, I know her story. I was with the federation earlier in the year last year.
Yeah.
Angela sat here and she was going through all her achievements. And at the time, she had not yet qualified for Australia Open. And they were looking for government support to go for the Africa Junior Championship. And the government said, we don't have money.
So
And look at them now. The federation Tennis Kenya has gone and looked for money, taken this team.
So it's so as I was saying, Carol, we'll work with media. It's important that we work with media and sell our story, and we appreciate the opportunity because then we can tell the story, tell them our dream, and then sell this dream and walk with us. You know, baby needs to be helped to start walking. We are crawling now. Help us walk and run, and we'll be successful together.
I mean, a scenario maybe where we have in 2-3 years Radull Live getting TV rights and giving us a check for $1 billion.
I want to show you live.
$1 million.
Come on, give these boys more work to do.
Yeah.
No, but it's so true. I wish we would all just build this brand together. In terms of infrastructure, because I'm assuming already the rugby union has limited places to play.
Yeah, so the interesting thing, and this part of growing with brands, Kajiado has Ketekena Sharks. They partnered with prisons, so they have a facility to play there. KRLF partnered with AP and Administration of Police. So in Nairobi, we do triple headers or double headers. So we come and we play, Then in Nakuru, same kind of arrangement. So they partnered with a teachers training college, and when we go to Nakuru, we use their fields. So that was the quickest way we'll be able to get infrastructure. But on the long term, we have applied for a portion from government in Kasarani. Probably, hopefully, we get our 10 acres there. But
there's so much space in Kasarani. They should be doing something with it.
So, but over and above, still in those different counties, again, through the clubs, we're looking at a long-term scenario whereby KRLF, in partnership with the existing clubs, can own real estate in key counties. So that, for example, if we're hosting a test, we then don't have to really rely on Kasarani. We will have, over a duration of time, those stadiums that we were promised. Now we want to go through.
You're still waiting for them.
we want to go through our clubs and through
promise coming out.
So we want to go through our clubs and through private partnerships to actually realize that. And it doesn't have to be something massive. I mean, a good 20,000 seater is good enough to begin with. And for a club game, that is more than enough. Now, for international, that will still do our job. Then if the day that rugby league grows to become such a big sport and we need a 60,000 seater, then now we can go back to the maybe to the national stadiums if we will not have realized our own. So that's how we are going through it. We've realized that's to be done through the grassroots. The mistake guys do, they want to do it through the top coming instead down, of going through the bottom. But
bottoms up, bottom up.
I knew that was coming.
Hey, Arsenal was in the relegation zone. Look at
Now
that.
they have.
It works.
Yeah, and if anything, it enriches the sport at the grassroots level. I mean, imagine having a world-class facility in a place like Kajiado, and you have guys going there to, do talent optimization. You have schools within that facility, and then you can play world-class games in there. It doesn't have to be rugby league. I mean, rugby league can add it out to even soccer or any other sport.
Actually, if you travel, and I'm sure you guys have traveled a lot around the world, stadiums are not within the city.
Yes.
It's just if you sort out your infrastructure, you take it out of town.
Exactly.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very, very, very true.
Yeah, so that's part of the, if you can get county involved, but get clubs involved and just have different partnerships. Not one entity doesn't have to carry all that burden. It can be shared out, but the community will, and other sports will still benefit from it.
Do you have any internationals planned for this year? Have you played any internationals for rugby league? Not yet.
So there's one that we are trying to get off the ground. Of course, there's still some challenges here and there with South Africa. Now we put a tentative date, although there are certain things, it hasn't been sanctioned yet, and there are certain things we're trying to get over. So we're also trying to be very careful how we affirmatively say that it's going to go through, but we're hopeful. I think that's the best way we can put it.
The plans are there.
The plans are there, and we are hopeful that before the year ends that we will have gotten it done. I think it's most of the thing is just getting, again, the corporate support, because a lot of the things we are doing it as a federation on our own, which is a bit...
And a bit of government recognition, because if you are playing an international, they should at least give you...
Yeah, so we have those talks. So we are hopeful that...
They're waiting to see where you're going.
Well, that's one. There was also the getting them to understand again the relevant bodies in office. There's a difference between rugby, because the talk was, but we've already given rugby funding. But the relevant guys are now aware of what needs to be done, and we are also in talks with South Africa every other week just to make sure things go on. So it's still open, but the thing we can say as a federation is that we're hopeful that we'll get a fixture done this year. Yeah, that's
No, we need to.
Yes. Well, actually, we need to get a...
Because the way it works, and IRL works, they've got some systems and structures in place. So at the moment, we are what we call an observer member. And we have till the end of this year to become an affiliate member. And there's 3 or 4 things we need to do before we become an affiliate member. Number one is the coaching courses that we're talking about, the level 1 and 2, which we're going to hold at the end of the month. Number 2 is to run a league, which we are doing. Number 3, he's got the usual technical reports to show that Kenya is actually show some data, and the 4th one is actually to have a test. So we need to have a test. So there is a test coming.
It must happen.
Yes, it must happen, John.
It must happen. See it, believe it. The universe will respond.
Yeah, so we've got to put it together to make sure, so that after that, then we can start hosting international tournaments. Of course, everyone wants to come to Kenya for tournaments. Yeah. Everyone wants Kenya in a World Cup. It does wonders for the marketing, And it was such big news around the world when that we got this observer member certificate. They were so excited. Kenya is on board finally, because people know what it can do for their...
I'm excited just from this conversation.
Yes, definitely. So we need to have it, and we'll communicate. And as you say, if governments show support, then the other corporates are confident to jump in.
These are serious people.
To jump in, and that's generally what we would want. It's our appeal, and it does well for the country on all facets, tourism, improving the economies in those counties, because the idea is to hold a test against South Africa in Kisumu and Nairobi, if it's possible and feasible and agreeable also to the South Africans. And we hope it can happen, but it needs to happen this year.
It needs to happen.
Yeah, so that's one way you can help. I mean,
let's make noise about. I'm a little guilty because I see your emails coming through, and I have also been one of those people who I thought you were a part of or under the union. I didn't realize you're actually just a sport on your own, a federation on your own.
We've chosen to go that way.
And that you're not clashing with them. It doesn't clash at all.
Not interested. There's too many numbers to go around.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, if you look at even the rugby union and all the competitions that they have, still with all those competitions, there's some players who don't get to play. on the weekend.
Yeah.
So this is just providing a different area, but it's not to say that we want your rejects. We also just have our own way of saying, listen, there's an alternative here, but we are actually looking at high schoolers and primary school, and there's a whole program about that probably over time we'll be sharing. Age grade, putting a competition in place, and just having camps. Women. By the way, we had our first woman referee taking center referee in our last game. Right now we have 3 women coaches, and I think they're about on standby. They're about 40 who are to come. So I'm just even for me, I'm looking at how do I slot all of them in with the little resources that we have. But the interest is there. So
and the women's teams.
Yeah, the women's teams. Yeah, so we want to do in the next season. We're actually going to launch the women's league. So yeah, you can get a patron for the women's.
Bring me on the spot. You want 2 minutes to decide. That would be fantastic, man. To always involve the women and then eventually youth teams, as you're saying. But thanks. I mean, that's it. That's the conversation I wanted to have today. Do you guys have any parting shots? Is there something we need to know or look forward to, or that we've not covered?
No, for me, I'll just say for us, it's we are more focused on doing things right, no matter how long it takes. So your support will be welcome, whether it is being a fan and just spreading the awareness that there's rugby league in the sport. And to the corporates, work with us right now. I mean, you'll get your value for money, guaranteed. As in, for us, we want to make sure by 2029 we're in
World
the World
Cup.
Cup.
Yeah. I like the fact that you're a young guy. You've played the game, you understand the challenges, you know what it takes to play rugby.
Yeah, definitely. We've been on and off the pitch, so we understand. We've been players, we've been in administration. We totally understand the challenges on and off the pitch, what both parties require. And yes, as John says, we're just encouraging all sorts of stakeholders who want to get involved in a new sport, jump on board with us. Let's have a conversation. And it's been a long journey. We've just gotten our affiliation, and the hard work begins now, and we're ready to put it in. So let's walk this journey together. 2029, I continue to say, and I'm fortunate to say this to my union brothers, we will go to the World Cup before you. 15. If you guys are not careful, we're going to the World Cup before you.
Shots fired!
Let me just make it in France.
I was hoping we go. When is the next World Cup? For you
next year.
Next year.
The qualifiers are this year in France.
Oh, yeah, France. The African Championship in France.
Yeah, so...
Anyway, but we wish them all the best. I mean, they're still our brothers. We get our roots from there.
You go for a beer at the clubs.
And we still offer technical support when we are called from time to time. But we are
on a light note.
Yeah, I think that's just my challenge to them. Let's challenge each other to be better and grow. I even say to my football people and football counterparts, you guys are the guys to lead the way. You're the most popular sport in the country, in the world, not to say. If football shows us the way, we will follow. And everyone else.
Actually, a lot of corporates will have more confidence. Exactly.
The way. Because football is everywhere.
Football
all kicked a ball.
Think sport is corrupt, which is not the case.
Exactly.
What do you think, now that you hear, one thing I didn't cover, in terms of investment, what I see around the world is rich businessmen buy clubs. But we haven't yet done that in Kenya. People think we tend to want to all open a cyber cafe. We all want to, we do quails. We want to do the same business. Even the biggest of businessmen want to do the same business. People haven't understood the investment of sport. What the Abramoviches do and the Saudis and all these people.
Funnily enough, there was, before COVID happened, we were actually going that route in one aspect. So we were going to have a Premier League, and Homeboys was our marketing partner. They were actually going to get us sponsors for that. And the idea was to have what we have currently with the leagues, a lower tier league, but we were having a commercial competition. So in that commercial competition, KRLF was basically going to own all the 6 clubs and get now investors to to rent
Buy
for clubs.
To pump it.
But now, since that didn't happen, we actually have, part of the development plan of the club is registered as an entity, but now the commercial end, that's where it comes in. So you'll have the clubs being like your ordinary club playing, but you'll have a commercial end. And the commercial end will have a board of directors, and now they'll be tasked to now have...
That's also a way to go, yeah.
And I think there's some clubs that are trying to do that right now. I think Nond is doing something similar, whereby there's the Nondis, I think there's a limited company, and then there's the Nondis club that has been there in existence. And I think that's the way sports needs to go, whereby there's a business end that takes care of all this. And I think corporates would rather get into partnership where there's this commercial thing going on as opposed to handouts, help us here and there.
Yeah, so if you can show, like I think I've talked to you before, is if we can show the return on investment, why not? So investing in infrastructure, which then can be used for different things. It's not just going to be my rugby club and I keep it to my rugby club, but we're not going to hold weddings and things, but you're able to hold big concerts, big events and sell. And then eventually you're able to sell players, and that is something that rugby league will be able to do, because there's a big Australian market, there's a big New Zealand market, there's a big Lebanese market. Lebanon are actually fourth in the world in rugby league. They are very big in rugby league. So on that end, we are lucky in terms of our new sport, and I think people will want Kenyan players out there. So that's it. You just need to show the return on investment and start running it. These community clubs are not going to survive any much longer on handouts and things like that. They need to break away from that. The Gor Mahias, the FC, the Harlequins, the Mwambas, they're not going to survive if they carry on the way they do.
And it's just making them aware that you can actually be a club, but branch out into different economic sectors. You can be a club that runs a laundry, runs a restaurant, runs an insurance company, and I think that's what a lot of this, all these, professional clubs are doing. And when we had our first meeting, our first conference meeting as KRLF with the clubs, we told them, listen, if you're in Kisumu, what are you guys big on doing in Kisumu? They're like, we do fish, there's water, and we do this. So they're like, are you guys able to tap into that market? And they're like, yeah, we can. So they're actually doing that. You go to a different club, they're like, okay, here we can do farming. There's that conversation. So there are things they're doing, and they've been able to use that to honor some fixtures, which is very commendable in comparison to some of the clubs that have been involved in that are not able to do that without sponsorship. So they're already started in the right direction.
Make your own money.
Yeah, so we see where that goes.
All right, well, thanks for this conversation. John Bai, Technical Director of Kenya Rugby League Federation. Charles Cardovilis, Vice Chairman, Commercial Director. But the short of that name is very unfair to people from Central. You should keep saying KRLF.
Or you better say KRL.
KRLF. That one. Guys, thanks for watching Radull Live. I've enjoyed the conversation. I hope you've learned a thing or two about rugby league. And ask yourself, what can I do for this sport? Always ask yourself. I tell people, always ask yourself. We like to say, Serekali. Ask yourself sometimes, what can I do to support this sport? So thanks for watching Radull Live. We'll see you again next week.
That was brilliant. Thank you. That's what I enjoyed. That was good.
I enjoyed that. And I've learned something. I feel like I need to tweet it.
Thank you.
I'll stop ignoring the press releases. I'm like, say, put a ranking post yesterday.
No, we understand. That one, some guys, so like, okay, part of stars, if you're telling me, I was telling you, when the two guys do big things, well,